What's going on, everybody? Welcome to an interview with Dayvii Seven, and I'm Kwame. We are here today with Jermaine Parris, owner of Trinity Prince, an emerging fashion designer, and we are here to learn a little bit more about Jermaine and the brand Trinity Prince and just get to know what we can expect from them and understand them on a deeper level. Welcome, Jermaine,
Thank you.
and let's get into it.
Thank you for having me.
Just starting off, getting to know you, can you tell us who Jermaine is and the brand Trinity Prince?
Yes, again, thank you for having me. I'm the creative director and founder of Trinity Prince. Trinity Prince is a luxury leather goods brand. A lot of people think it's just a footwear brand, but it is a luxury leather goods brand. We started off as a made to order brand, making custom collective pieces. And so we recently released a few shoes, and we have a lot of other products that we're planning to release this season. A little bit about me: I started designing shoes when I was around 12 years old, and it's always been a passion. At first, I wanted to go into manufacturing, but after discovering talent for designing and creating interesting products, decided to pivot in that direction. I spent most of my career working for luxury brands in their corporate offices, developing them in store environments and really learning the industry. And then a few years ago, I decided to pivot and start my own brand. And now we're here, just excited to share more with you guys.
That is dope. So you kind of always have been a part of the fashion industry in some way. It was just about making that pivot and transitioning into it for you. It sounds like you always have been into creating things too with the manufacturing and then transitioning to fashion design specifically. So you were always in that creative state. It was just like, where am I put it though?
As a kid, I grew up a lot around skateboarders and graphic designers and people who were making their own brands or were involved in music in some sort. And in my childhood neighborhood, I knew the guys that were wearing 10D, Stussy and Lacoste and Diesel. And as I started to become a teenager, I was like the one-off kid that had some designer stuff while everyone was getting Jordans and Nikes. Like I was wearing Diesel, I was wearing Vape, and they would be like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "See, you don't know about this, right?" So it's on a completely different level. So I kind of soaked up that energy and that experience. And once I realized that design was where I wanted to land, I just went for it.
A lot of people would go with the trends of that time, what was taking place, or like you said, the Jordans or whatever. So to learn that you've been somebody who kind of like I've been doing this, like I've always kind of had my own vision of what I wanted to get to. That kind of speaks a lot for like you and what could expect from a brand, like somebody who's authentic essentially. Thank you for sharing that. My next question is who's or what is Trinity Prince?
Yeah, so I like to explain the brand as a luxury collaboration module, right? And so the brand name Trinity Prince really stems around this trinity of the muse, the creator, and the product. And so the muse can be the woman going out on a night out with her husband and she wants to wear something that makes her feel poised or structured or elegant or beautiful or seductive. Or it could be the man that's walking into a boardroom and he wants some sneakers that are just like super clean and fly, but like maybe someone doesn't have it, right? And so as a brand, I look through the lens of those events and those moments. And so every shoe or every product that I create is the energy or the essence of that moment so that the wearer actually is embodying that moment within themselves, right? So it's just like you're not meant to wear the shoes every single day. You're meant to wear for that one red carpet event that you're gonna out and there's gonna be photos and people are gonna look at your shoes and be like, "Oh my God, whose shoes are those?" And you could say, "Those are Trinity Prints."
I like that. That just boosts how you show up in the shoe or just compliments a certain personality. So it's like when you show up with the confidence and then the outfit is there, everything just kind of ties it all in together. So I definitely can see that when I look at your shoes. But continuing on with shoes, Can you explain that intimate palace runner video that's on your Instagram page? I feel like it was very intimate, it was sentimental, and it told a story. And I would like you to explain what was happening in the video, the representation, symbolism, and connecting that to your palace runner sneakers.
Yeah, so it's really funny that you brought that up because that was one of the first visuals that I've really put together for the brand as kind of like a backdrop as who I am. And so a little bit of the story is that the Palace Runner is this kid that basically had to take on the responsibility of his family, his legacy. And it starts with him, growing up in this palace and having to communicate through the palace by running and taking these messages from one place to another because his family wasn't able to do that. And the people in his neighborhood understood him as this kid that was just like doing something really important and also creating this role that just really didn't exist. And from the lens of that story is really just who I was, right? As a kid, like my mom would like send me to the store and like I would go to the store and all these people knew me in my neighborhood and they knew I was like designing shoes and making sneakers. And so my childhood neighborhood friends and the people I grew up with all know that I've been deeply into shoes and that was my calling. But also it's the legacy that I'm leaving behind as a father myself, right? And so that story was just like the struggle of like what he had to go through to get to where he was. And so
Oh,
there's images of him like running through the palace and running through the dirt and different images of like people, chanting and the ethics and like the cultural aspect of where he was from and then his prospect and journey into actually creating the shoe to help him be able to do what he needs to do better. So it's like
very cool.
him designing and making the shoe was him getting the support and having something that helps him deliver the message, but it's also the same product that actually creates the legacy that he lives through.
Wow, I love that so much. I wouldn't have went that deep into connecting it to your upbringing specifically, but I really love how you tied that into that story. I thought that was super interesting. So that was dope.
Thank you. Thank you.
And when you are constructing your sneakers or your boots, your heels, what's some characteristics of your products that make them beneficial to your audience?
Yeah, so I think one of the great things about me as a designer is I actually have been on the sales floor, right? Like I've been working with the people that would be purchasing my shoes. So I understand the micro nuances of footwear design and like what's missing and what people are looking for. So within the shoe design, I'm actually embedding a lot of support, a lot of like art support, fit is different, right? So for the sneakers are typically a little bit more wider than like the standard runner, right? And so a lot of men usually complain about sneakers being narrow, so my sneakers actually fit like a wider range of men. For women, women always complain about the high heel, the arch support, potentially getting bunions or cords and all these other stuff. One of the things that, we worked on heavily with my development team was ensuring that the shoes were very comfortable. So whether that be like padded soles, additional arch support, the placement of the heel, ensuring that it's placed under the actual heel and not behind the heel, making sure the footbed is padded, that the leather overlay straps are not too sharp or we're not using materials in certain areas that might cut into the ankle or cut into the foot. So those kind of things I learned from actually selling the Louboutin Pigalle or selling the Dior Jadiors or the D-Way slides and hearing people say, oh, these just hurt my feet. It hurts at this place, right? Like I was at these jobs writing down these notes in my design book so that when I was creating my shoes, I was avoiding those and making sure that I embedded those things as support for my audience.
Got you. And I love that those things are taken into consideration because I've seen or heard a lot of conversations around like you said, the heel placement or like the strap just cutting into the skin after a while. And that was gonna lead me to like a follow-up question as far as just like what was the challenging area when it came to creating your women's shoe? Because I know that the girls they complain about like an uncomfortable shoe. Sometimes we can only wear it for that first hour, then we got the Crocs in the car. Like what was has been challenging when you are creating this women's shoe?
I would say that actually the shoe in the background, the Dominion was probably the most challenging shoe. It still is the most challenging shoe that I have created outside of the other ones. But what I will say is that there is a duality to shoes and just the market. And that duality is that not every shoe is meant to be worn for an extended period of time. Not every silhouette is meant to be worn to walk from the car to 10 blocks away, right? There's certain silhouettes that assist with that. There's certain styles that are better for that. And so a lot of it is educating the audience and getting them to understand why certain shoes are shaped in certain ways or why the heel is placed there. So, for instance, with the Dominion heel, when I first posted the picture of the Dominion heel, it completely blew up on Threads. It was like almost a quarter of a million views on Threads, thousands of comments, and the half the comments were ladies like, "He's a man, he can't design a good shoe. This is a torture device," right? A lot of negative, like, "Oh, it's too high. It's this, that, and the third." And the funny thing about it is, a lot of these same women, when we were doing the market research, they were actually wearing the same heel heights in their photos, right? But the difference is that they're wearing brands that don't have the support. They're wearing Fashion Nova shoes, right? They're wearing Shein shoes. They're wearing shoes from Aldo. They're wearing Steve Madden. They're wearing fast fashion shoes that are not specifically crafted to give you the same level of support and comfort at the same height or at the same pitch levels. So that has always been a challenge of like educating the customer and saying like, well, hey, there's two things, right? Like every foot is different, every shoe shape
Mhm.
is different, right? So understanding your foot, like you might have a wider foot, you probably shouldn't be wearing a lot of mules. You probably shouldn't be wearing anything over 4.5 inches or 5 inches because it's weight bearing and support and all of these things, right? So trying to teach them that, but also providing them with a product that they would really love has been a bit of a challenge, but something that I'm looking to
Mm.
get through.
I think that that's a really interesting point that you make, and I think that more education is needed around like what supports what or what goes with what in the fashion industry because like I mentioned early on, that conversation does exist and is circled around a lot. And most of the perspective is simply just from like the design wasn't properly thought about or something of that nature. But all in all, it might just depends on the individual. So I definitely think that education around that could be beneficial. And then that just allows people to engage with the product differently. And to me, when you shared that, I instantly felt like, okay, this man has thought about every detail, which just goes into the whole concept of just creating a quality product, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
those things are not considered, like you said, when there's fast fashion brands. And I am going to continue on with the shoes. So, Devanir, did I pronounce that right?
Yes, Devanir. Yes.
When I was reading on the website, I saw like a little intro and it said the becoming manifested. I'm gonna read the rest of it off. Pressure, desire, and exposure. The boot doesn't decorate the wearer. It documents her evolution. Become, and then we click on become, and we take it to the collection. And when I read that, honestly, when I was going over the whole site, just kind of felt powered, transformation. I just felt so much like I said earlier, well crafted the way that you have thought about the storyline of how we define the brand. But it made me still want to ask what was happening internally or on the back end of things when you gave birth to the creation Devanir? Because, like I said, when I read this, it felt like some sort of transformation or something more may have been happening in your life, or just a transition that kind of pushed this boot that's kind of like, I'm here.
Yes. Yeah. So I love that you read that because there's actually a film that I'm working on behind it that I think the audience would really enjoy and just watching it. And I think it gives a little bit more of a like a visual perspective of Divinier's story. But personally, that was at the point where I had just got laid off from my retail job. I was working full time. And to be very honest with you, they found out I was working on my business on my lunch breaks and they didn't like that. And so they laid me off. And so
Wow.
that was like, yeah, that was like a very interesting moment because it was right after my first shoe Dominion had went viral and I said in my mind like, okay, this is the moment that the brand starts to propel, right? And it starts to exceed and go in a completely different direction, right? And I'm now becoming the person that I imagined that I would be. So when I first drew up the boot, I was working with my developer and I was working with another creative collaboration, a muse at the time, and we were kind of deciding what was going to be our backdrop for the release. And it's funny because that boot was actually not supposed to go into production. It was supposed to be like an archived one of one piece, and we were going to put it out as like part of a five shoe collection with the muse. And that situation actually had fell through. Oh, I had the boot and I was like, okay, here's me at this threshold where the brand is propelling and, I have this story around becoming the footwear designer. And then there's a boot. And first I posted under a picture of Kelly Rowland in a similar outfit. She had on like a polka dot Dalmatian outfit. And I had just finished making a sample of this boot to give to a music artist for a placement. And it went completely viral. Devanir boot is actually the top seller in the brand outside of all of my other shoes, which is just crazy for me, especially given where it lands in the market. And so that's a little bit of the story behind the boot. It was really just, my personal transition into becoming a footwear designer, being known for it, and then the brand actually existing in this place where like it's being recognized.
I could sense like something was brewing just by how you came with that definition. And I think that, well, not really think because it is a thing that people, the audience engage with products or services better when they, feel a relation to. And to me, when I am reading the descriptions or getting an understanding for a brand or a person, you look for values or characteristics or how things are built up to determine, how we engage with it. When just reading over the description for the boot here, it definitely kind of can empower you if you're at a space of transition in your own journey, kind of empower you to kind of make that move or get to the next thing or stand in your purpose or just give you that confidence you need to walk into whatever room. I think just draws people in.
I really enjoy that because, for me, just a part of the transformation arc, that boot, the original three styles is what actually tells the story. And so the polka dot version of the boot is like the final piece of that transformation arc,
Right.
right? It's like pieces of the very beginning, which is the very first boot. It's actually, and I don't know if the audience has already seen this, but it's actually a blood red python leather version of the Divanir boot that only one person owns at this point.
Mm.
After that, and that's really supposed to symbolize like the flesh, right? The rawness. The red is like the blood, the rawness of who we are and the places that we have to go to, the depths of who we have to be to become, right? And then the next version of that boot is this red tip So a piece of that flesh, but coated in this black python leather. And then that's like the armor, right? The exterior, right? And that's all of the healing and all of the experiences that we've gone through becoming the armor of how we show up, right? And what's beneath the surface. And then the Dalmatian polka dot with the red tip. So a piece of the beginning, but the exterior of the new
Mm.
is that thing that attracts people, the thing that really makes them look at you and say like, "Oh my god, like that's so cool," right? And so that was kind of the idea behind the arc of this story, and it's starting from the rawness of who we become.
I think that's a phenomenal story. And as I was mentioning earlier, just as far as being pulled into a brand thing, just having those stories to be able to connect to just continues to build that picture of, like this is a quality brand. This is well thought about in every aspect. I appreciate you sharing what was happening in that moment.
Thank you, thank you.
Before we get ready to wrap up, I did want to touch on just your transition that's coming up soon. I know you mentioned transitioning from New York, going to LA. What can the people expect from this transition? Is there going to be something different that you add to what you're doing? Yeah, what's happening next?
Yeah, without revealing a whole lot, just recently released the La Muse shoe, so LA Muse,
Right.
and also the Muse. So very little interesting connection there. The transition has just been really to just have a new foundation, right? And just be in a completely different environment where there's more visibility, and I feel the brand can really thrive in a market that really looks for this type of product in Los Angeles and California and things like that. So that's kind of like the baseline for that. But La Muse will be released. I have some other products that I'm looking to release as well, like a flat, and then we have a handbag that we're looking to put out as well. So I'm super excited for it. I'm looking forward to the audience just like showing up and supporting the brand and being a part of the journey. And like we have some TV placements as well and some music video placements that we've been working on. So these are all like super interesting visuals and like creatives that will kind of immerse everyone into Trinity Prince's story. And so I'm super excited for all that.
Exciting. That sounds like something to look forward to. I am interested to see what the La Muse are going to be. My mind is pinging off, but since we're not revealing too much, I'm not gonna try to pick your brain, but I'm interested to see
I would
what's
I will say behind every creation, there is a muse, right? There is someone that is in close connection with me, working with me. They're the archetype or the energy or the moment. And so the big reveal after the visual has dropped, which we just recently put up on Threads and Instagram, will be shown soon. Hoping that everyone enjoys that.
Okay, well, we will be on the lookout for that. Now, we are here at Dayvii Seven, a platform where we see you. We give recognition to those who don't get that recognition that they deserve. And so, as I wrap up, I just want to ask: is there anything that you want to tell the people that I did not ask that you feel like they should know?
Yeah. If you're passionate and it's your purpose and it's your calling, do it. It doesn't matter what you're going through in life. God, the universe, whatever you believe in is always going to pull you in the right direction. I've been through a lot in my life. I've experienced a lot in my life, but the one thing that I can say that has always been consistent is what I'm doing now. Since I was 12 years old, I wanted to design shoes. Still have my old sketchbook. Every step in my life and every point in my career has led me to this moment that I'm living right now. And that's just my testimony. So for anyone that has a passion or a purpose, if you believe it, what they say, you can achieve it. So that's what I would say to anyone out there.
Thank you so much, Jermaine, for sharing that message.
Thank you.
Y'all, go after what your calling is. Don't sleep on it.
Exactly.
So that's what we have. We are looking forward to all your new endeavors and continuing to support you. Thank you so much again for the opportunity to just get to know you and your brand a
Thank
little
you.
bit. beyond the surface.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.